evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Last Week in Geek, the video podcast from Manly Battleships. I'm Mr. Panda.
And I'm Rockstar.
And we're back from Otakon. Great. Better than ever. Love it. They just managed to edge over the population of last year, and that's without, special badges like staff and VIPs and guests and stuff. A little bit more people, but it did not feel crowded. In fact, it felt less crowded than last year. I've heard that there was one exception. There was one point early in the morning on Saturday where the line just spontaneously appeared. But I mean, there wasn't even a line to the dealer's room per se. There was a flow of traffic to the dealer's room, and that made me happy. It warmed the cockles of my heart. Rockstar doesn't want to say anything about Otakon, so I guess we'll just move on.
Well, no, I enjoyed Otakon. Otakon was very, very nice. It wasn't full, even though there was more people. I'm surprised. But other than that, I had a great time.
We were so happy that y'all came out to some of our panels, and we hope that you will keep doing that and let the con know that you enjoyed it. By the way, if you have the guidebook, you can still rate the panels. Just go ahead and, I'm not going to tell you to push 5 stars, but, that would be pleasant,
For all of you who did review, we really appreciate it.
Next con is PsychoCon this coming weekend at the Mount Laurel Resort.
You finally got it correct.
It's at the Mount Laurel Resort, just west of Allentown, a little bit east of Hazleton, in the middle of nowhere, but it's a water park. I'm excited, and you better be too. We have only a few trailers to go over with you real quick, so just check them out in the links below. First one is Carnival Row has an updated trailer, an actual trailer, where we know what's going on. Because it's monsters and fairy tales in, Victorian England / the American Civil War era. It looks like Copper, but with fairies. Getting a really big Legend of Neil vibe. The last thing that Neil remembered. Fairy sex. Good times.
Not for kids.
That's coming out on August 30th.
On Amazon Prime.
And I can just hear Gordon Ramsay remarking in complete and utter earnest on this one.
Finally, some good fucking food.
Rocko's Modern Life is coming back on August 9th to Netflix. 20 years in a spaceship and they're back.
As something from my childhood, it makes me really happy that Nick actually sold the rights to Netflix here. Oh, it looks so great.
Because Nickelodeon doesn't know what to do with rights anymore. And we have a new movie coming from the director-writer of Your Name, one of my favorite anime movies. It's called Weathering With You, and it does have a US-based trailer now out at the link below. It's a love story about a boy who moves to Tokyo. Boy meets girl, girl controls the weather, normal anime stuff. Do you think they're going to kiss in the rain?
Not until the very end. Maybe under some fireworks.
Oh boy. Coming to theaters later this year sometime. We're going to kick things over to some updates to stories we've covered in past episodes here at Last Week in Geek, starting with Kyoto Animation, following up the story there following the disastrous fire caused by an arsonist at the studio headquarters, well, not the studio headquarters, but one of the buildings where the artists in the studio actually operated.
Since our last video, the survivors of the arson actually went back to work in an undisclosed location for obvious reasons. But the unfortunate part is, as they went back to work, we did hear news that somebody who was injured did pass away from their injuries in the hospital, making the death total up to 35 now. If you are wondering why we're not saying the names or anything like that of all the people who died in the tragedy, it did come out that the CEO, Hideaki Hata, does not want us to disclose names due to ethics that they're trying to discuss behind the scenes.
You already heard about Sentai's efforts to do a Kickstarter in order to fund some of the recovery efforts for the studio. But in addition to that, the company has now published a way to directly donate to them if you have the capacity to do it. If you're in Japan, you can just use the bank numbers. If you're outside in places like the United States, you do have to go through a different service called SWIFT, which we'll link to below if you're interested in donating directly. An additional statement by the CEO of the company, Mr. Hata, indicated that the planned release of a spin-off for Violet Evergarden is still going to continue. They're going to meet the original deadline of having it come out September 6th, and there will be a premiere at Animagic, which is an anime convention held in Germany, on August 3rd.
In the last statement, most recent statement today made by Mr. Hata was one of hope. He recognizes all the heartfelt love and devotion from the fans. He's really happy for that, and he wants you guys to know that they're going to work hard. They're not giving up. They don't want to go silently into the night, so there is hope for recovery at the end of the tunnel for Kyoto Animation. So in something that we didn't cover last week, Fire Force and anime did feel the consequences of the tragedy by being, in a short hiatus of a week. However, now it's come under controversy when it came back this week because it was not heavily censored, it was lightly censored. There is some censorship in the opening where there are people who are being consumed by fire that is now just a black screen with the lyrics on screen. There are, it seems, diminished effects when it comes to explosions and the fire inside of the anime. And of course, people have taken to Twitter to create either a fuss against the censorship, which seems to be a small majority, and most people are for the censorship and are understanding of why, at this point, people are still in the hospital, people are still suffering from this. The country needs time to grieve, If you did want to get an uncensored version, there's always the Blu-ray, so...
Support anime, buy Blu-rays, avoid censorship, which is one of the things I've been talking about. I mean, not to draw away the discussion from the more important story, but actually, on that subject, I'm not even sure how I feel about it myself. So, I understand why people are arguing about it on Twitter, just because, I don't know their reasons for being against it, or for it, or whatever. There's definitely something to be said about the sensitivity. This is definitely not the first time that episodes of an anime have been pulled temporarily for one reason or another. Pokemon happened all the time. For this in particular, though, I guess you'll remember that we talked last time about some of the historic problems with older Japanese buildings. And I'm not sure how tweaking how fire is represented in a show about firefighters is going to help anybody. I certainly understand that they don't want to bring up bad memories, but I'm almost ready to agree with the people who said, if you're going to do this, you might as well just put it on hiatus for a little bit longer, because what purpose does that serve? I'm not personally touched by this beyond being a fan of the studio, so my opinion doesn't matter nearly as much. It just feels odd to me. I don't know how I feel about it. I
feel like at the end of the day, we should still think about supporting the community. You don't know. Maybe even the animators that actually animate this particular anime wanted it to be censored themselves as fellow animators who are touched by the tragedy.
And maybe that's the case. But again, I'm just ugh. I feel like censoring this show almost feels like they want to desensitize people to how bad this tragedy is and how it could still be bad again. I'm not going to call it a cop-out, but I don't know, guys. Something to think about, and feel free to just hop on Twitter and have at it with whatever your position is. Tell you what, why don't you leave a comment below with how you feel about Fire Force getting censored? Don't want to sound excited about it, but I actually am really interested in your opinions on this, because I myself feel a little bit ambiguous about the appropriateness of censoring a show about firefighters doing their job, just because there was a tragedy that was exacerbated by circumstances in addition to having a murderer. Let me just be clear about that.
Yes. Also in the news today, it seems Hideo Kojima spooked U.S. Customs. You see, if you buy the collector's edition of Death Stranding, you get a life-size replica of the baby thing in amber. And he decided that for San Diego Comic-Con, he was going to bring said collector's items, put it in his suitcase, and that poor officer in charge of the x-ray probably got a huge fright when he saw a baby on the x-ray screen.
Week for retirement and I gotta deal with this weirdo. I initially thought when you said that he gave them the surprise that it was going to be oh yeah, he just climbed into a box and was going along on the conveyor belt. No one noticed anything. Oh, what's this? What's going on? Wing!
No, that was the toddler on Spirit Airlines, dude.
We talked last episode about the Joy-Con failing for the Nintendo Switch because it sucks. It drifts. Doesn't sync well. All sorts of weird issues. Turns out, Vice, because they got tired of posting baloney articles about Evangelion, that's another story entirely, don't worry about it, leaked an internal memo from Nintendo for their customer service reps that shows that they are prepared to deal with this issue. If you are having a problem with the Joy-Con drift, as it's called, just call Nintendo directly, and they will probably be able to fix your problem. They'll help with repairs, they'll help with advice in getting it set up correctly. Worst case scenario, they'll refund your money for the Joy-Con.
It seems those repairs are free. So, if future repairs will be free for the Joy-Con. As for, like, right now. I don't know how long it'll last. So, we recommend that if you're having Joy-Con drift, you call in.
Call in the Nintendo service number, findable on any piece of Nintendo equipment. You know, technically, I've heard this is true. I don't know if this is true. Technically, Nintendo will still work on an old console. They just charge the same rate as a new console. So if you really want to fix your Nintendo...
I'm not that desperate for them to fix my own Nintendo stuff.
I actually kind of want to try it now. Like, I'm just going to save up some money and be like, yeah, I would like you to fix this and see if that will actually work.
The following is proof that when Bethesda does something that actually pleases their fans...
Here's looking at you, Fallout 76.
They still manage to fuck it up. Bethesda recently re-released the OG Doom trilogy to the Switch.
She really said OG.
Yes,
It's
I
2019.
Really OG.
It's 2019.
And what was supposed to be just an optional sign into your Bethesda account has become a requirement. And the internet did what it does best. They memed the hell out of it.
Speaking of the internet, there's an exciting new bit of information coming out for Steam. They published their most purchased games list, which has a lot of regular stuff, except for... You weebs. You motherfucking weebs. Why do you have to do this? Why do you do this to me? Why do I have to report on this? Why is this in front of me right now? What would be on the list of most purchased games from Steam but Koikatsu Party? Yes, Koikatsu Party, or better known by an English name, Super Waifu Maker. In my day, there were Super Robot Wars and Super lots of other things like Super Mario Brothers. Super Waifu Maker is one I haven't heard before. Well, let me tell you something about Super Waifu Maker. Man, oh man, are you making sure that it remains popular. You can do all sorts of stuff. It has over 300 options to adjust your waifus and your husbandos. Why am I reading this like an infomercial? It has over 300 options to adjust your waifus and your husbandos. Even their pubic hair. Customizable. Weep shit! Just realized the producer's been fucking with me. It's not called Super Waifu Maker. Koikatsu Party. Now available on Steam. Call now.
For an uncensored version, you need to patch it, just so you guys know, you fucking weebs. Netflix has struck a deal with Brutus Pink, known for their work on Big Mouth, to animate new movies and shows strictly for Netflix. That deal includes 3 more seasons of Big Mouth. So, let's watch those horny teenagers some more!
They're not even teenagers.
Okay, pre-teens. Sorry.
Getting back to Netflix for a moment, the series Tuca&Bertie, which I believe we've mentioned on the show before, got canceled. And people were a little bit upset about that. In fact, I'm kind of a little bit upset about it.
I'm upset about it.
A lot of people have highlighted the fact that the show wasn't very well promoted compared to, say, BoJack Horseman. And to a certain extent, I completely get that. Tuca&Bertie is a little bit more low-key than BoJack. It's got a little bit less of a budget. You can kind of tell. Same style, but less of a budget. It's a little less polished. But it also happens to have really interesting issues that BoJack isn't doing. BoJack channels a very particular type of narrative, and that's cool. I love BoJack to death. Tuca&Bertie takes different types of issues and puts it into that same narrative style that we've come to know and love. Things like female issues, millennial issues. Most of you out there are millennials and you're relating to BoJack, who is actually outside your generational gap. Mm-hmm. So while there are aspects of his story that are generalizable to you, things like depression, anxiety, struggling with your place in the world, to a certain extent, I feel like the joke is, yeah, millennials are old, ahead of their time. Tuca&Bertie does that a little bit more directly. So particularly if you're interested in, what women have to go through in a situation similar to BoJack, where you're dealing with not so much post-fame depression, but post-life depression, post-college depression. Things you're currently dealing with. There's a show I actually kind of enjoyed once I got over the initial little humps of the first couple episodes where, you don't know what the rhythm of the show is. Mm-hmm. BoJack did the same thing. So hopefully, maybe, Netflix Just bring it back. Give it another chance. Come on. It's interesting that the buzz surrounding the show's cancellation actually got the head of PR for Netflix,
social media manager. He manages their social media.
Jarrett Weisselman?
Yes.
Weisselman.
Not Weaselman.
Jarrett Weisselman to get on Twitter and ask people, frankly, it's like, well, how should we be promoting better? Should we be doing Twitter? Should we be doing Facebook? My gut instinct tells me try Vine. TikTok? Or as it's called these days, TikTok. Actually, I feel like Tuca&Bertie would, like, Tuca in particular would fit perfectly in with the TikTok aesthetic. Yeah. Hey, Netflix, try TikTok advertisements for Tuca&Bertie, specifically Tuca. You heard it here first. We made that suggestion. You don't have to pay us or anything. That's fine. Give me a Netflix show. I want to do a Netflix show.
I don't know what you would do on a
I want to get
show.
The same thing I do now.
No one's gonna
yell very loudly, occasionally overrule you and just talk over you, let you write everything.
Talk about weird shit.
Occasionally slam my ukulele against something or someone that's not a euphemism. Sweat under lights. I do that a lot. I deserve to be paid for that.
Yep. Well, now we're going to talk about the streaming bubble and how it just seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger each year. Joining the streaming bubble, NBC in April 2020 with...
What does NBC even have at this point?
Friends in the Office.
Oh, wait, yeah, I forgot about that. That's the two. Sign up today to get unlimited access to The Office and Friends. That's all NBC needs. I mean, hell, the actors still make millions in rerun royalties.
I don't know. I just look at this and I'm like, oh, look, cable prices are back.
Yay! On demand was the way of the future, they said. Oh, boy, were they right. Have you ever wanted a GPS voice that spoke with complete lack of grammar? Now your wish can come true. Waze, the awesome app that allows you to navigate to far places while reporting the cops so that other people don't get pulled over for speeding. Maybe you did, though, because you were the first person to see it. This is not a paid promotion, but Waze, you should just support my show. I'll sell out to you. I love Waze. So, Waze is bringing out a new voice for their GPS as an option. Cookie Monster. Happy 50th anniversary, Sesame Street. And I'm going to listen to Cookie Monster all day. Driving to the store, I'm going to put on the Cookie Monster for Waze. Don't even care. Vehicle roadside ahead. I wonder if they're going to put in special promotion areas, like if they have a midnight, an insomnia cookie nearby. Cookies! Now recalculating.
Me one cookie! Free GPS!
Oh, this know where cookie is when you turn the wrong way. Turn around!
That's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, it's not. That's more like, turn around, you girly man! Oh my god, I never realized how close Arnold Schwarzenegger and Cookie Monster are. Someone do this fan art for me. I'll feature your fan art on the show for all it's worth. I need Arnold Schwarzenegger Cookie Monster mashup. Just the buffest Cookie Monster of all time. Get to the cookie jar!
This has sort of been the longest
It's not a cookie! I'll be back. No, I won't. Too busy eating cookies. You curly man! Alright, this bit has gone on far too long.
Stan Lee is going to have the honor of having a street codenamed after him. I love the...
It's not good enough to get his own straight.
See, the article I got this from was like, they're naming a street after Stan Lee. I'm like, no, they're not. They're co-naming it. Thanks, clickbait. I won't clickbait you. It is just a co-name. He's going to get it in the Bronx, where he grew up. It's actually going to be University Avenue between Brant Place and West 76th Street.
I hope everyone who lives on that street actually decides to just start using it, though, because I think he deserves a real street.
Yep. And the actual street name is going to be Stan Lee Way. So, congratulations, Stan Lee.
I think they should have put it next to Excelsior Avenue, personally. I don't know if that's a real name, though.
That should be, they should rename West
there you go.
76th
Get rid of
Street
University Drive.
Excelsior.
Who cares? Every city has a University Drive. You know what they don't have? Stan Lee Way. Next to Excelsior Plaza or something.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Perfect idea. I love this.
So hopefully this was informative and entertaining for you in some capacity. So go get your cookies and have a good night, everybody. See you next time.
Goodbye!